Hi, Deb McIntosh here with Community Connections, and welcome to part 2. We're here with Mayor McFaddin and Councillor MacLeod, and we're carrying on the conversation on what is the hot topics in Castlegar. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. Topic number 1, ponds. Are they a go? Are they a not go? Is the well fixed?
Yes. Okay, so by the time that this comes out, it may be broken again. I don't know. But I'm just kidding. No, the well is fixed. It has been, and they're up and they are running. We totally know that these ponds were they really were an experiment. Like, there wasn't a lot of this format anywhere in to look to for examples. And so I think they've been a bit of that. It seems like, at least since we've been around the table, of how do we get them to work. They're lovely when they're working and you get the geese away from them and there's no algae and all the things. When they're working perfectly, they're amazing and everyone loves them. But they seem to have a lot of hiccups along the way. So we actually have been chatting, me and our CAO, Mr. Barlow, have been chatting a little bit about what are some of those solutions to get them, especially the algae and all of that, so that it's under control and we don't have that problem every year. So they're evaluating some of those solutions. I think we have some good ideas for next year. The well was a fluke. I mean, how are you supposed to know that a part on a well is going to break? Like, it was just a random thing that kind of happened, and then you have to wait for parts because we live in the Kootenays, and so part of living in the Kootenays means you can't run to your corner well store and just pick up a part. So yeah, those are all, some challenges. We saw about we had to keep the geese away when we were at FCM, and there was these statues of coyotes in the field in Toronto, and they had big signs that said this is to keep the geese out, and they've had them for 2 years and it seemed to be working. And so I don't know, we're always looking at ways to do that. I thought maybe I'd bring my dog down every morning and let them run the geese out, and then we took my dog for a walk and there was a whole flock of geese in the field and she just stared at them and then walked away. So clearly she's not the solution, but hopefully we can come up with some solution for them, and yeah, we're working on it for sure. Do you have anything to add?
No, exactly. They're our jewel when they work and they're running and they're functioning. But to walk down there and see that there's geese everywhere and the greenness of the ponds, that's not going to hurt you, but it's not pretty. Yeah, it is. It is disheartening, and we're a work in progress.
Yeah, aren't we all? Yeah.
It's a metaphor for life. Those ponds is like,
Exactly that. Yeah, they are beautiful when they're working well, and we appreciate you guys that you keep trying and finding solutions, and I think COVID had a lot to do with it because of they just sat, which gives the geese carte blanche on welcome home. So yeah, those were some issues for sure.
Can I just say that sometimes, to jump onto that, sometimes what you might think you can do with those ponds, you can't actually do because they're natural, and people don't realize that water flows into a river that has fish, and so that puts it in a whole nother regulations of what you can actually put in those ponds that's safe, and that's safe for our rivers. So it is definitely a balance. It's not as simple as keeping your pool in the backyard clear and
dump a bunch of chemicals in
yeah,
it.
let's not do that again.
Yeah, so that was my next thing. So I had heard that somebody had poured chlorine in it, hoping to help.
Chlorine pucks, 2 or 3 nights in a row, were thrown into the ponds.
Yeah.
Well, do we know for sure? What we know is that somehow chlorine got into our ponds. We have no idea how chlorine got into our ponds. I don't know how else they get in there unless there was actually a human being going and putting in there, but we don't know who did that. What we knew is that the chlorine went up, which became quite dangerous because that water again goes out into our river. That affects our whole ecosystem, and so it was not helpful. Whoever thought that they were being helpful, it is not helpful. So let's not do that. And then we had to close them because we had to figure out a safe way to now get rid of the chlorine, which again, you can't use your normal things you'd use in your backyard to neutralize the PhDs and all of that. So
some people still don't understand that it's aquifer fed. It's not river water. So I think that's part of the misunderstanding of why the water can't be circulated about.
Totally. Yeah.
So if you're out there and you do want to help with solutions with the City of Castlegar, please talk to them first.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
We'd appreciate that.
I know you guys are open to different things. I mean, there's a lot of very smart people out there that have all the science behind it and stuff, so that's good. Some of the things I've heard now, I did a little snooping on Facebook. The dog swim area. What the heck is happening with that? It is loved by so many. Dogs down there swimming and frolicking and people screaming, and there might lie the problem. in the dog park areas. So there is a question out there. Is it a rumor or is it not that city wants to shut down the dog areas?
We as mayor and council have never had a conversation ever about closing the swim park or the dog park. There are residents that live down there who might not like to hear that, and they have the way to go through the process like everybody else. They can come to council and present their views. They can tell us why they do or don't like it down there, all of those things, and we've had that happen in the past. Yeah, I mean, I think some of the concerns are the fact that people are just letting their dogs chase the birds that are down there. This is just what I'm hearing, and I do live at the full disclosure, I live right there. I live right next to the community garden, so I am privy to lots of what goes on down there, but that's what I'm being told, is that people that take their dogs out there to have them off leash, they're laughing when the birds are getting chased. There used to be sandpipers down there. There's none of those now. You know, people, are they being responsible dog owners when you let your dog chase birds? I don't know. I don't own a dog. I love dogs, I just don't own one currently. So, you know,
unless they're geese, you know, we can chase up all the geese.
Yeah, chase all of those too. But yeah, no, and I hear you. But I'm just saying, I think that the people in the neighborhood were never asked if that dog park, that they wanted it there. If they wanted it to be, you know, lit up till 10 o'clock at night, right? That was the last little thing. Somebody thought that would be a great idea. Well, the people who are having those suggestions don't necessarily live there. In fact, I would bet that they don't. Right? I certainly don't want the light shining in my backyard till 10 o'clock at night. I'm sure that most of the people on our street don't, right? I think that, you know, if you want the dog park, that's fine, but then you need to be responsible with your dogs. I do hear dogs fighting constantly. I hear adults fighting amongst themselves at the dog park. You know, let's be responsible dog owners or pet owners, right? I mean, that's not something anybody should have to listen to. Yeah, so is it a work in progress? Yeah, I would think so. I have also heard that someone's going to come and talk to us about what they like and don't like about the dog park, and we'll have to wait to see what it morphs into.
It's one of those things where I would, you know, we've had some conversation with residents who've come in, which I really appreciate, and talked to us about their concerns and had a great conversation, things they didn't know. Like, we have animal control contract. There's numbers all over down there that if people are misusing and really, because that's the issue. I think that if everyone was coming down there and being responsible dog owners and were being, you know, proper human beings to one another and not screaming and yelling at each other and treating people awfully and respecting when someone else is walking along with their little tiny dog and they've got some big dog running at it. Like, I think that if we were being good human beings, we wouldn't have complaints. The problem is that people are not being respectful. They're not understanding that, you know, that their dog doesn't have the right to take over the world. And so, you know, I think that even if we got rid of the dog park, the reality is you're going to have these complaints either way. You're going to have people bringing their dogs down there because they bring them down to the parts that aren't dog park places and lift them off leash, and we get complaints about that. So it's not just the dog park and the, you know, the dog swimming area. I think it's just dog owners in general, and I am one, I have two, and I know that I'm responsible for them. And so I think the ownership needs to be on citizens to actually, if you want to use the park and you want to use the swimming hole, then you need to be respectful. And if you're not, that option may disappear. Like, again, we haven't had that conversation. That isn't something that's come up yet, but you do need to be respectful of others that are around there and the residents that live up there.
Common sense dictates.
Totally. So if something is, if there's people with complaints, we've said this, we have an animal control, it's SPCA, there's a number down there. They take care of all of our animal control, which actually gives us more resources. And there is, if it's human beings who are screaming and yelling and doing stuff, call the RCMP. Like, this isn't an animal control issue. This is people need to be kind and need to control their own behavior. So please make sure you call someone and that can deal with it. And hopefully maybe that would change people's behavior. You never know, but hopefully it would change people's behavior.
Yeah. Yeah, we just need to be respectful. There's enough room out there for everybody to have space.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Castlegar playground, the new castle, the humongous thing that's going up in the air. It sounds fascinating, actually.
Largest castle, and I told Mr. Christensen when he outlined the plan for it and what it was going to look like, I told him I wanted to be the first one to go down. But as many people know, I actually work at a community school, at the Robson Community School, and my little characters have seen the drawings and all that kind of stuff, and they are over the moon excited. There might be a little bit of a delay. some parts or some kind of the place, the base is. Anyway, we're working on that. That definitely is a work in progress. But I know that there are so many people excited about that. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, the delay may be, we don't know for sure, the delay may be comes into the pour in place rubber, and it has to be a certain temperature and time in order for it to actually work. And so because of time frames, we just got to make sure the weather's okay, and hopefully it will go in. You know, really, I think the complaint is, why are you spending like $1 million on a playground? And I get that from residents when you look at it at the surface and the information that gets put out.
So why are you?
Yeah, so here's the reality: is you have a playground down there that is at end of life. And so we already knew this playground's at end of life. And so
inadequate.
And inadequate, right? So we've got this big park, small playground, it's at end of life. We're gonna have to replace it. We get a government grant stream that fits this criteria. People don't realize that grants, you can't just apply and use them for whatever you want. They're very specific to what they can be used for. So it was a grant stream. So now all of a sudden we got a grant that now we're replacing a playground that would have cost us the exact same. We're putting the same amount of money out, except we would have got the same size before, and not as cool. But now all of a sudden we get this a much better playground that will suit a lot more people's families, and with accessibility. We've added 3 different parts to it for accessibility for all people with different needs, so it will fit everyone's needs, and we get it for the same price that something we were going to have to replace anyway. And so it wasn't like, hey, we want to just put this massive play structure down here and we're going to spend $1 million of your dollars, tax dollars. It's like, no, we had to replace a playground that was end of life. We get to do this because we got a grant for it, and it's costing you the exact same as it would have if we just replaced what we had to replace.
So what is the city's portion of that?
Oh, do you remember? 400 and, am I wrong? That might be wrong. I don't want to quote it because I might actually be wrong. I'd have to look it up. Yeah, I think. I think, but I could be, because we added the accessibility pieces. I don't know. I'm not totally sure where that landed.
But either way, you find it a long-term investment in the city of Castlegar.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's good. And yeah, I would say that I would go down the slide, but I'm not sure I'd do that.
Oh, I will be. We will. 100%. Yeah.
That'd be great. What about the other areas? What about parks and other areas? That has been an ongoing issue for as long as I can remember. When are we going to enhance, 9th Street or Twin Rivers or Cone Hill? Cone Hill's a blast, right? In the winter, it's a blast. So is there something on the books to look into that?
Yeah, when is in our budget? We're doing a park facility master plan to see the condition of all of them and come up with a plan going forward. We did the infrastructure levy, we started that 5 years ago. In that infrastructure levy, there's actually a whole section that's for parks. So now we have a funding stream to actually do parks. It's not something we have to tax for every time we have to do one. So I think it's playing catch up like most things in a city. I think a lot of things were built for generations and generations and generations, not thinking about the replacement of them. And so now we're playing catch up with all those plans, with all of those making funding streams so that you can replace things. So I can't remember, but it is in our budget to do a park master plan, and we do actually have a funding stream now for those parks. So yeah, it's definitely a conversation.
Good. So one of the things I've also heard is some people, certainly not the majority, a couple, have complained about the street upkeep on biking lanes, street cleaning, snow removal, potholes, that type of thing. Has there been an issue within Civic Works? Are we low on staff, or are we just not getting the materials in to fix things? Because I thought before, I remembered a couple of years ago in the news, you guys had this machine come in that could fix
3D, infrared that fixes the potholes.
So what's happened to it, and why aren't you using it?
Want me to take it, or you want to start? Yeah, okay. So I think it's a combination of lots of little pieces. We did get, so talking about the pothole piece, we did get this machine, and when they've used it, it's worked great. Really what we realized is the constraints on our staffing time, like Civic Works. The more that time goes on, the more that two things happen. The more it gets downloaded to a city that we're expected to do. The charter gave municipal government a mandate of this is what you're to do. And that has grown and grown and grown and grown without any more resources. So that's part of it, is the expectation on what we as a city are supposed to do has grown with no more resources, and you're trying to figure that piece out. I think the second piece is regulations. So regulations changed over the last how many decades as well. So that means you have to have more certifications, you have to have more upkeep, you're always having to test more things and do more things and all of that. That takes time. Is it safer and better for the community? I think everyone would have a debate on that, probably mostly, but it takes more time. It takes people's time. And so that has left our civic work specifically with this gap of what is expected of them and what they have for resourcing. And we have recognized that. We funded 4 new positions. They were just out. They may probably are closed by the time that this will air, to hire just general civic work so they can fill in and help fill those gaps. We've increased 2 assistant managers out there, one specifically for parks and roads and one for water and sewer, so that they can help alleviate and figure out what needs to be done. So we've got a facility manager, I think, that is out right now. I don't know if they're not hired yet. So to try and fill some of those gaps so that they can do better maintenance, because we recognize that there's a gap there. I don't think anyone does. So then you get onto the streets. Well, the streets, the biking lanes become a challenge. One is that it's just time. The second piece is it's pretty hard when you get windstorms, or you get this happen, or you get that happen. It's really easy for gravel to get back on them, and then to have the resources to keep continuing cleaning them. The one thing people don't realize is that when they were built, that section of Columbia Avenue for the winter time, it was actually built for snow load. Those bike lanes were built for snow load. They weren't built to be used 365 days. Yeah, they were not. Majority of people are not riding their bikes in the winter. There are some that are, and I think there's some that have figured out a way to make that work. And that's where they integrate into where the roads are with the cars. They're commuters. They're not people out for a joyride.
Hardcore. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it is a constraint. There was never an intention that those bike lanes would be cleaned in the wintertime. They're there to deal with the extra snow loads. And we could change that at any time, but that does cost a lot of money, because that means we have to remove that snow and put it somewhere quicker. So so I think it's a bit of lots of different moving pieces, but a lot of it has to do with staffing, and we're working really hard to try and alleviate some of that tension for sure.
Well, what was interesting about the infrared paving thing that we got, the machine that we got, you still have to have asphalt. And you know, when it first gets to be spring and the potholes are swallowing up my truck, there really is nothing they can do except put gravel in them, because the asphalt plant, Selkirk Paving or wherever we get our cold mix from, isn't even in operation. Yeah. So it's fine to think that, yes, let's fix them, let's pave them, but it doesn't happen because you can't get the cold mix to be able to do that. So logistically, yeah, it was, it swallowed my truck a few times when I wasn't paying attention, but then the guys would put gravel in them and it would rain and it would go away, and we'd hear complaints and it would get filled in and it would rain, and that it just wasn't the right time of year to be trying to fix them. Right. And with the plan, with the master plan, and with the roads, with the infrastructure money, there'll be a paving plan so that streets will get repaved in a scheduled, before they get to what downtown Castlegar looked like on Columbia Avenue and 3rd, I think it was, right? Those pieces will get repaved in a timely fashion, so hopefully we don't get to that. Yeah. But it was the infrastructure levy that's given us that ability, and now it's just going to be time to put those pieces in place and keep our assets maintained as best that we can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the next thing I want to talk about, which is near and dear to my heart, is housing. Winter's coming. We have several unsheltered people. We have seniors living in cars. We have them sleeping in tents. We have a population stuck in the back. We have people everywhere that are unhoused. I know that Lenny Normington had presented to you guys too about housing and the continuum of housing needed. And there's, it's a big number.
Silver tsunami, she called it. I'll never forget that.
Silver tsunami, yeah. So, and it's something that needs to be dealt with immediately. And I know it can't be because things take time. But I know that you're talking with BC Housing. Hopefully something happens soon, because the weather has already changed. So what are you guys doing with BC Housing to mitigate that, to get things rolling, so people feel at least secure in the thought that things are moving forward.
Yeah. You want me to jump on? Okay, yeah, so we are having conversations with BC Housing. Those are ongoing conversations. Also conversations with local providers to see what resources are out there to help different things, and doing the very best we can to advocate for that timeline. I am fairly confident we will have something for winter. Again, I cannot say that we will, but we are working very hard to get that there is a space for winter. I'm really happy that our neighbors in Trail, it sounds like they have found a space to hopefully help with theirs, and you know, trying to figure out how we can work together. That becomes challenging, as you know, specifically in the unhoused sector in Castlegar, because we don't have the same resources as our neighbors, and that becomes a really challenging piece. I know that you would understand that. You know, I think if you work in any kind of social service field, you understand that, without having a 24-hour hospital and some of the support systems for mental health and all that come with it, that it becomes really challenging. And so the shelter for that specific piece is only one piece of the puzzle that we are having continual conversations over. I know myself have had many meetings to try and discuss and advocate for, it's great, it's fine, put a shelter in. Yes, I agree we need it, but where's the rest? Where's the rest of the support? Where's the rest of the funding for the rest of the support? Because again, the charter, community charter, kind of made municipal government to do this, and you can't expect us to know how and have the resources to deal with all of the other things. So you need to come to the table and you need to figure out how we can work together. So as a city, it is not something that's lost on us. I know many of us, I can speak for myself, near and dear to my heart, but again, you're working within the framework that a municipal government was made to do, and that often is those partnerships that you don't have control over a lot of different things. So, but we are working very hard with BC Housing for that piece. The other piece I'll jump into, and then I'll let you jump in. The rest of the housing piece also becomes a challenge because we are not funded to build housing. You know, like I said, I think in the last session that we did together, $80,000 is 1% tax increase. $80,000 builds nothing. And so if we need to build a multi-unit seniors complex or multi-unit low-income complex, you're talking millions and millions of dollars. There's no way a city is going to be able to do that with property taxes. So we have to look at what can we do to move that needle. We just put a proposal in last Monday. It'll be a while, probably a month or so by the time people see this. We put a proposal in to a rapid housing initiative, I think that's what it was called. And we had 5 different things in there, key things to try and move that needle. And so we're trying to do what we can do, which is how do we move red tape from people being able to get housing out? How do we make sure that our infrastructure is ready so that if someone wants to come and put 50, 60 units, it's not a huge cost and time to update that infrastructure so it can handle that, because we have old pipes, we have old infrastructure. How do we make sure that things pre-zoned and ready to go, so when someone wants to come in and build something, they're not having to go through that whole process? How do we become creative, like the building downtown we purchased so the art gallery and housing can go down there, so that we can now hand it off to a nonprofit that says, here, you build it, we'll try and give space. So I think we're working really hard to be creative at that. It was interesting when the senior group came and actually presented to us, they talked a lot about, gave us 5 or 6 examples of, these are all the places and we need more of these, and why isn't the city doing this? And my gentle pushback was, I know there are issues, but every single one that you just gave me was built by a nonprofit society. It was not built by the city back in the day. And so as a city, in my role there, I am more than willing to partner, to work together to figure out how do we remove the barriers so that you can build it. But we need partners. We need housing provider partners in the space that says we can build it and run it. And as a city, we can say we can try and remove all the red tape and try and help you do that and get you to the funding sources, because there's funding sources for that. So it really comes down to partnership and hoping that we can find good partners in the space and advocate for more money from different levels of government. It says if you want housing and you want us as a city to have a housing needs assessment, then you better give us something in order to do something with that housing needs assessment, which I've said around the table many times, like, great, have a housing needs assessment. but what are we supposed to do with that? Like, we need money in order to do something with that.
We know what the housing needs are, and assessments are no longer necessary. I think if you talk to the people and the frontline workers, they'll tell you exactly what's needed. My challenge is always telling people that are unsheltered going into winter that there's nothing for them. And if Trail decides today that that's not going to happen there, it's going to start a tsunami effect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what happens with that is that then it emboldens other councils to say no, because these guys got through it.
I think, though, Minister Eby is going to make that right. I mean, I remember listening to a press conference, and he charged us as municipalities to take away the barriers, right? And it's fine for people to think that we've had so many starts for projects like the one behind the courthouse. Those people came, they were gung-ho, the neighbors weren't happy. We went through all that public process, and there it sits. I often ask Mary Durand, our person in municipal planning, about that. It's not up to us. Right, we've given them what they can. They wanted development service cost breaks from us. They wanted property tax breaks from us. I think we worked really hard with them, lots of staff time to give them what they thought they need. They went away. They needed the housing, BC Housing to help them as well. And then it all falls flat. Maybe they're working furiously behind the scenes, but we don't know that. We don't know that. But like Park Place, I get that was contentious. The people developing that never asked us for anything. They didn't ask us for development service charge cuts, no property tax, none of it. They just went ahead and built it. And which one's up, right? I get people aren't happy. We took away a park. I really truly believe that with a park that goes back there will be better than what was ever there before, and will have provided however many housing units. Are they going to be expensive? Yeah, from what I'm hearing they are. But that means that you haven't actually tried to build anything in today's market, because without us giving you breaks on property taxes, development service charges, all of those things, the developer has to get their money back. And they don't do it for nothing. They do it to make a profit, right? So it's a double-edged sword. We're pretty much damned if we do and damned if we don't, right? We give away the farm to get housing, and we've tried, right? And then it doesn't happen, right? KSCL, how long have they been on that project that's down there by where the motel used to be? That was before my time on council. That whole land swap and getting that going, they're breaking ground. I get to drive by that all the time now.
Well, I think that people don't realize is a lot of the big the housing in Nelson that's going up and has gone up in the last year or so, those are all 10 years in the making. And so we are trying very hard to do the best that we can. My last thing I would say on that is an encouragement to the public to, if you have been privileged enough to own your own home for a while, think about those that aren't. Because it is a really big challenge in this day and age to find somewhere to live, and these people don't have somewhere to live. So we need to think about our own privilege before we have too many opinions of what should go where and where should go where. Absolutely, the concerns and the constraints and the worry and all of that is something we need to navigate. Yes, people need to feel safe and they need to be safe, but let's not take away the needs that are out there and diminish them when we sit in our nice warm homes that we've owned for 20 years.
Regardless of what their income is.
Regardless of your income.
I'm going to end on that note. I want to thank you both for the work that you do in the community, sitting around the table, and for coming here and answering questions, because it's never easy, and you know you're going to get flack no matter what. Keep up the good work, and thank you. Everybody out there that's helping with the forest fires, keeping people safe, opening your homes. Thank you for that, and I hope we talk again real soon.
Thanks, we appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thank you.